Hey Narwhals, I'm your host Luke Narwhal, and welcome back to another weight loss video. Hope you enjoy. Mothers and their effect on weight. As my friends and I reach middle age, yikes, I often reflect on how our parents' views on food, weight, and exercise have influenced how we in turn look at ourselves and our current weight. I never recall my mother ever talking about her weight or being on diets. She never really actively exercised, although I never saw the woman sit down during the day. She had friends who would do aerobics, etc., and occasionally I would join in with them. She never mentioned my weight. It just wasn't a thing. We also ate mostly homegrown and cooked foods, and eating out was a rare treat. I was also a kid that while I could sit all day reading, I could also just as easily play outside all day until sundown. On the other hand, I have friends whose mothers made them paranoid about gaining weight. One friend in particular was an excessive exerciser, not because she enjoyed it so much, but because she was terrified of gaining weight. I myself never had to work to keep my weight down until I was in my late 20s. Then a sedentary job and lack of exercise started to catch up with me. Added to that, I would be what I call a hearty eater. I do enjoy good food. Now, I do have to watch what I eat and seek out opportunities to move, but one thing I find different in my view than others I have seen is that I don't tie my weight to my self-worth. I don't vilify myself for any food. I didn't enjoy being overweight, but I also didn't attach any personal failing to it, other than probably should have eaten a bit less. Anyway, just wanted to say that what you do and don't do can have lifelong effects on your children, and thank you to my mother for modeling what I consider to be a healthy body image. My mom is a very thin and beautiful woman. I am tall, 5'11", and solidly built, but I've never been seriously overweight. I certainly was not overweight in 8th grade when my mom began to bother me about what I ate. If I ate anything she didn't deem healthy, anything besides a salad, I heard eat it today, wear it tomorrow. If I ever went for a second helping of anything, she put her hand on mine to stop me and say, "Are you sure?" She often did this in front of friends and extended family. When I told her later that I had been developing an ED, she nodded and said that sometimes that can be helpful because I really don't want to get any fatter. Again, I was not fat. Once, I sang at a choir performance, and when I got off stage, she came up to me and said, "I've never seen legs look more like tree trunks in my life." I had to wear a uniform for school, and that included a pleated skirt. She had told me, "It's unfortunate you have to wear that skirt to school every day because it makes you look as wide as a bus." Again, I was not fat. So anyway, I have issues. I'm in therapy. I don't think I'll ever have a normal relationship with food or with my body. Absolutely. I'm dealing with this right now in therapy. It pains me to admit to any mistake my parents may have made because they are excellent people, supportive parents, and loving parents to each other. They are generous with time and money to all, and honesty and open conversations were always lauded in our home. I could tell them anything and get their true advice and support without judgment. Wonderful people. And that said, I am only now becoming aware of how deeply conditioned women are to hate their bodies, and how my mother is no exception. She had a body type I would kill for, and I always felt painfully aware of my large build, but she hated her body. So what was I to do with mine, which was infinitely worse? She always said I had a body like a German athlete and a glamazon to stop my ED, because I was perfect. But what I realize now, as I finally do therapy over a lifetime of ED problems since the age of 5, is that we learn from those around us. She's not the only one either. Even my 70-year-old neighbor ladies were in their garden bemoaning their figures just the other day, or my colleagues. We are all hurting ourselves from this toxic diet culture, and yet we don't realize it. The machine of the diet industry is that good and that sneaky. Yes, this. I work in marketing for an independent lingerie boutique, and sometimes I do bra fitting as well when the shop gets busy. The number of times a day a woman complains about her back fat when we put her into a bra that actually fits her is ridiculous. Yes, if you're wearing a snug bra, your flesh slightly bubbles around the bra band. I tell women that everyone complains about this tissue. We call it tissue because it is, whether they're a size 0 or a size 24, whether they're 18 or 73. We constantly have to tell women that we're made of flesh and that we're not mannequins. It's crazy. Yes, people might know from behind you that you are in fact wearing undergarments and do in fact have normal human flesh. Women are so hard on themselves in change rooms, and honestly, it can be exhausting being a cheerleader all day. Growing up, I can remember my mom telling me how she never went over 115 pounds until she started having kids. She's 2 inches shorter than I am, but I always set that as a goal. And it's been my goal for my entire adult life, but I've never been able to get there. I was never even overweight my entire life until COVID, but I've been painfully aware of my weight since I was at least 10. She would also look at me when I was a child and tell me that she hoped someday I would develop a waist and hips, instead of being straight down with no curves, like some of my unfortunate aunts. And I had curly hair as a kid, but my mom has stick straight hair. And instead of finding resources for curly hair, she would just tell me all the time that I looked homeless. These things sound cruel, but they honestly just feel like part of being a girl growing up. My mom is very loving, but she just wanted the best for me as her daughter, and she didn't know the profound lasting effect those offhand words would have on my life. I distinctly remember when I was 13 and starting to fill out, about 5'2" and 120-ish pounds, and my mom told me that my butt was getting big and I should watch it before I get too fat. I told her that big butts are cute, or something like that, and she said, "Not that kind of big." I always wonder why she felt like she had to say that to her 13-year-old daughter. 100%. I was a bit of a chunkier kid, but some kids just are that way, and they eventually grow out of it. However, from as young as 3, I was constantly told that I was fat. I even had relatives calling me fatty instead of my name. My parents also didn't teach me any healthy eating habits, neither did they model them. When I was in school, I wasn't allowed to socialize with my friends during recess because I was overweight. I had to go running on the track. It was so psychologically damaging growing up being told I was fat, but not knowing how and why I had to eat right, and then being singled out from my peers and forced to do extra exercise. It made me hate my body. I've been obese my whole life, but I'm finally learning how to eat right, work out because I like moving my body, and love my body for all that it does. There are 2 things I really wish my mom had done differently. The first is emphasize the importance of health over the social benefits of being society's standard of attractive. Losing weight was never about being healthy. It was only about looking pretty. She still does this, and it drives me up the wall. Just last week, I was venting a little bit to her about how my daughter is a picky eater and pretty much only wants to eat candy. Nothing against candy, the kids are not wanting for candy, but I definitely don't want it to be the only thing she eats. And my mom said that I should encourage the picky eating, even if that means that she only eats candy, because picky eaters tend to be slimmer. She pointed to a cousin of mine who was always very thin and literally only ate sweets as an example of a good model. I was appalled. I'd many times over rather have my daughter be larger and have healthy eating habits than be smaller and have poor eating habits. The second thing I wish my mom had done differently is not blame me for my weight problems, when I'm realizing now, having my own children, that I was like 7 years old and had almost no control over my own diet. I don't think my weight was entirely my mom's fault, but it definitely wasn't mine either, not when I was that young, but that's the way I was made to feel anyway. I had the curse of a mother who was always thinner than me once I got past puberty, yet still complained about her weight a ton. I was a healthy weight, yet thought I was fat from the time I was about 14, because I figured if she was fat, even though she was much thinner than me, then I must be gigantic. And of course, the constant comments about, "Oh, that's so much food. I just ate way too much. That's way too many calories," etc. at pretty much every meal. Now that I'm older, I see that a lot of the guilt I feel around eating is because of her. Yeah, this is the thing. My mom, who naturally had a 5'11" figure and was model thin, had some issues with her own mom, and of course, passed on that lovely tradition. She is an amazing person, but always rags on herself. Her weight, her face, her smile, her intelligence, her cooking. Every talent she has is just okay. And she's talked about her weight and dieting as long as I can remember. Between that and my dad taunting us at his house because we didn't eat enough. What even is that? We were definitely never starved. I thought I was fat, even when I was just a perfect kid and teen, and developed a huge complex about food I'm only now trying to resolve. This speaks to me, both as a daughter and as a mother. My mom had weight issues since my younger sibling was born. I remember her constantly being on a diet and cycling through Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Slim Fast, Atkins, and anything and everything. She was good about not mentioning my weight ever, but she unconsciously set that example for me. She was also not an exerciser for fun or for weight control. What she fed us was not very healthy, and a very finish your plate, and dessert every night too. I've been trying to be so conscious to not do this to my children. I exercise a lot, but because I genuinely love running, and also for weight control, no lying on the internet. But as far as my kids are concerned, they never hear about the weight control reasons. We don't talk about calories or good or bad foods. They eat until the belly is happy, and then they can be done. Even when I'm actively dieting, I make a point to not discuss it or try to hide why. I'm trying to break the cycle here, and I hope it's working. And that brings us to the end of the video, Narwhals. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please tap subscribe to join our awesome community, the Narwhals, and for more weight loss stories that help you stay on track. And here's our featured Narwhal of the day. 327 pounds to 198 in a year and a half. Still have 50 to 60 pounds to lose.